What's going on, everyone? UFC Vegas 41. It's the recap, and unfortunately, this is not one of those happy-go-lucky recaps. You got to pay the piper eventually. Can't have just a crazy winning run of luck all the time. And unfortunately, this UFC, not so good. Last week, we were bailed out by Bellator. This week, Bellator also not so good. Goddamn, Fedor Emelianenko. We're not here to talk about him. We're talking about UFC. And again, what I like about these recaps is even if you lose, you can't be sour about it. You got to come out. You got to say where you went right, where you went wrong. What mistakes did we make? Sometimes the read's not bad. It's the outcome was bad. In a couple of these fights, geez, things were going accordingly. And then maybe a bonehead decision here or there. You never quite know, but all in all, not a great night. So let's go through it and see exactly what went wrong. Jonathan Martinez versus Zviad Lazaivili on the very first fight. Again, this one was super short notice. You had Lazaivili took the fight for Aaron Phillips on fairly short notice. Jonathan Martinez ended up being like a plus 105 underdog. Again, I ended up just going with the Georgian fighter. This is not a fight that I wanted a whole lot of exposure on. Wasn't very confident either way. I think with Jonathan Martinez, kid's super skilled. He's got a very good striking game. But he just never seems to get over the hump. He's got big wins in the UFC, most notably, I guess, Thomas Almeida. But that last fight with Davey Grant, again, he starts strong and then he starts to fade. When he fades, a guy like Davey Grant's able to put the pressure on him. I think a lot of the theory with Zayat, if you were going to back him, which was a bad backing, was that, yeah, this guy just fought a 5-round fight, only went 1 round, but he was scheduled for a 5-rounder in LFA. If he's got some of that good Georgian durability, that wrestling chops, you've got Merab Dvalishvili talking about how good his wrestling pedigree is. You know, in theory, if this guy put some pressure on Jonathan Martinez, he could have success. It's about an even money fight. I went going with the Georgian fighter. Early on in the first round, I thought he actually fought pretty well. He did a good job of letting his hands go. He was not going to be the crisper, faster, more technical striker at distance, but he had some decent power. He used that power in his hands, back up Martinez, try to press him up against the cage, but he couldn't get the takedown. And so that becomes a little bit troubling because was he going to win a 15-minute striking battle? Like, no, need to rely on that wrestling. You got Merab Dvalishvili's cage side and also touts you as being a great wrestler. Got to take down Jonathan Martinez, but unable to do so. Still a good first round for him. Doesn't look out of it. And then that's when you see the short notice nature of the fight take place. I mean, the second and the third round, he obviously starts to fatigue. He did come in on just a few days' notice. Martinez had a full camp or, a better camp anyways. And yeah, being at Factory X Muay Thai, being at Elevation, being still young enough, the kid's definitely making improvements. And after that first round, he definitely settled. The jab was money for him all day. He was way faster. Could he have maybe tried to push a little bit harder to get the finish? Didn't need to. Coasted rounds 2 and 3. Probably won all 3 rounds anyways, but first round competitive, second and third, not so much. Good victory for Jonathan Martinez. He needed to win. He definitely is someone with the skills. He just needs a little bit of confidence. And to get back into the win column after a KO loss to David Grant, that's solid stuff for him. So he'll definitely take an advancement. And on the flip side for Lazaivili, listen, you took a fight on short notice. He was previously undefeated, so it's good for them to get that first loss out of the way, go back to the drawing board, make those improvements. But yeah, his wrestling's not as good as we thought. He's not really a striker. Guy seemed durable. Guy seemed like he had a good enough chin. And give him a full camp. Maybe he can apply that pressure for more than just one single round, but not exactly a big debut for him. Not someone that you're super excited for him. And anyways, he started off 0-1. Ronda Marcos versus Livian Souza. Oh, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, still shame on you. And then fool me 3 times, shame on me. I've been duped by Livian Souza before. Oh, yes. I think a lot of people have been duped by Livian Souza. She comes over for Invicta, former champion, wins over Ayaka Hamasaki, a split decision loss to Angela Hill, Deanna Bennett, Kat Kankopna. My God, this will be a solid fighter in the UFC and has been fraudulent right from the get-go. I mean, has just never found her footing. She did win over Alex Chambers, 12-1 favorite, beat Sarah Froda, but looked awful against Sarah Froda. But we give her a pass. Wow, Froda missed weight. Fair enough. Brandon Van Buren making her UFC debut just crushes her. What's the excuse there? She never pulled the trigger. Okay. The Ashley Otter fight, I thought she looked awful despite getting a victory. And then the Amanda Lemos fight last time out. I mean, she got hit a few times and just sat down. Like, I don't want to question her heart. I don't want to say, she hasn't got the heart of a fighter. But the one thing that we could guarantee coming in is that Ronda Marcos was going to go for it because Ronda Marcos always goes for it. She's a gatekeeper of the division. She came in with an abysmal 10-11 record or a 10 and just a losing record within the promotion, a losing record overall. So not a whole lot you can get excited with, but Ronda Marcos always does come to fight. And she's been fighting world-class competition day in, day out. This is clearly, she hasn't won a fight in 5 or 6 fight losing streak. there's a there's a disqualification. She's on a bad run right now. She loses, job's gone. Going to be motivated, has fought in better fighters than Livian Souza. Time to make it happen. First round, Ronda Marcos loses the first round. Livian Souza does an excellent job. I shouldn't say excellent job, just, she's a decent enough striker. She's strong. She's able to control a little bit of the clinch. Ronda Marcos gets hit a few times, eventually takes her down, gets back up. But then beyond that, extending it into the second and third round, Marcos takes over. I mean, the dirty boxing in the clinch was probably her best weapon. Short little right hands, single collar tie, and then just box her up, press her against the cage, and then just start working on her. But Livian Souza, it wasn't like she couldn't have won this fight. She could have won the fight. She had the skills to win the fight. She didn't have the mentality to win the fight. And so she wins the first round. She just needs to secure one more round and then run away and survive, right? Second round, she again gets the takedown on Ronda Marcos. And it's just like, you're a BJJ black belt. You're good on the ground. And she just gives up like a very basic sweep. Ronda Marcos on top. Once Ronda Marcos would get on top, Souza had nothing off her back. And she just started to accept the positions. She just started to accept the flow of the fight. And so solid performance for Ronda Marcos. Again, if you want to look at it in hindsight, why didn't I have more exposure to Ronda Marcos? She has a losing record overall as an MMA fighter. So how much exposure did you really want on her? She has lost 4 or 5 of her last, number of fights. Hasn't been on the best run. It's just styles do make fights. And with Souza, she appears to be a quitter deep down. Skilled as she may be, the Brazilian gangster, like that was counterfeit shit. That wasn't gangster shit. That was counterfeit shit. But it was to be expected because we've seen her pull this stunt before. So thank God I didn't fall for it again, because I really would have felt like an idiot. But I felt like an idiot on a couple other spots. So anyways, that got us our first win, Ronda Marcos, and a slight underdog play, I believe. Jeff Molina versus Daniel De Silva. We went with Jeff Molina. So again, the whole narrative on here, he's out of James Krause's camp, Glory MMA and Fitness. They got a bunch of young, hungry guys grinding, getting better. You see them make improvements fight to fight. You see James Krause take a limited level of athlete and turn them into a good fighter. High ring IQ these guys got, improving fight to fight. With Jeff Molina, he had won, best teammate of the year within the gym. They do the little gym awards, and he had most improved fighter and he had best teammate. So what that tells you is this guy's in the gym all the time. That's why he's a great teammate. He's willing to help everybody. He's willing to stay late. And why is he most improved? Because he's the best teammate. Because he's always here. Because he's always grinding. Because he's always working with the pro team. He's going to get a lot better. And you saw in his UFC debut, it's like, what a crazy, thrilling fight that was. But this kid knows how to dig deep. He's still only 24 years old. And a lot of that is training with world-class guys and just that constant grind. So looking at Daniel De Silva, I guess his real name's Daniel Lacerda, but I don't know what his real name is. Daniel Lacerda, De Silva, whatever you want to call him. We'll call him Lacerda. On tape, this guy looked pretty good. You know what I mean? He's a once beaten. Only time he ever lost is an injury. So it's like you could even make a case that he's unbeaten. He's got some nasty kicks from the outside, and his jiu-jitsu was tight. Great submission game. If he's able to power Molina to the ground and get on top, Molina could find himself in lots of trouble. At least that's the idea. But again, we ended up going with Molina because you don't think this guy's been in bad spots in the gym before? Again, he's working with Krause, an excellent grappler. He's working with Grant, who I thought was a great grappler, who we'll talk about later on in the card. But, he was working with a good level of guys. Hopefully he pulls it together. Lacerda came as advertised, nasty submission game, but Molina came as advertised too. Tough, scrappy, and high ring IQ, man. I mean, Lacerda took his back in the first round, and you don't see that very often. You see it all the time. God damn. I mean, we'll talk about Bruce Leeroy later, but a guy takes your back, right? Especially if they throw the body triangle on you. It's like, what do? Do you panic and fall to the ground? Do you try to shake him off? Do you try to stand there? Like, this guy, Molina, didn't even really fight the hands. He just like crouches over and uses his free hand to peel off the foot, step around it, shake him, end up on top. He fights off arm bars. He fought off that initial rear naked choke attempt. Anytime he saw any bit of trouble, he's silky smooth, this kid. Submission defense was on point, and Lacerda was throwing them up, but he was burning himself out. He kind of took the fight on short notice. He's more of a muscular guy. And he's more of one of these power guys, right? Where everything is just heavy. The kicks are heavy. The submission attempts are heavy. And once he started to burn himself out, Molina just flows, man. And that type of flowingness, you knew he could fight 3 rounds because you saw it in his UFC debut. You know he could throw 160 significant strikes. And has that kind of pace, and that's all he did here. I mean, he just took over on Lacerda. And in the second round, same thing, right back to the ground, and only this time he's able to pass him out, and he's just floating on him, and it was a very, very high-level performance out of the kid. Then he takes the microphone afterwards, and he says, it might not be today, might not be tomorrow, might not be next week, might not be next month. That part I didn't understand. Like, but you're not fighting for 3 more months anyways, right? But then eventually caught himself. He's like, might not be next year, but I'm going to be a world champion. And again, that's the mentality you need to have. He's 24 years old. He's 2-0 in the UFC. He's got 2 big victories. This is being his first stoppage victory. Yeah, sky's the limit for this kid. So keep grinding, keep improving, and 125 pounds. There's not really a whole long list of challengers. His age, he's going to need a bunch more fights, no doubt about that. Like Moreno's ahead of him, but Moreno's another one of these guys that is a young fighter, right? And goes out there and beats Davison Figueiredo and captures the title. So it's open up in the air. And if Molina's got the work ethic he does and he keeps improving, I really liked what I saw out of him, man. If he doesn't win the title, he'll challenge for a title, and it'll be a fun fight regardless. So happy to get the Jeff Molina one. We move on to Jay Herbert versus Kama Worthy. Again, this is a hindsight situation, right? In hindsight, why did I take bozo picks and why didn't I just go with the confidence factor of a Jay Herbert? But yeah, just because you knew it was going to be a banger either side. And even though he won, that was always going to be in the books. It's like he could have easily just gotten clipped himself. I mean, Kama Worthy is a guy that has a ton of power. The difference between both these guys is one of them can take a relative punch. One of them just cannot. I do feel for Kama Worthy. I'm not going to go through all the losses again because I already did so on the preview show. But of 9 career defeats, he's been knocked out 8 times, most of which are in the first round. If they get to the second round, almost never does it get past a minute into the second round. Like he's got 6 minutes at best. If he lands on you, great. But this is punchy kicky. This is you're going into an arena of combat and fighting another guy. Taking damage is just an inadvertent risk. You can destroy a guy. You can win all 5 rounds of a fight, but you're going to get hit. And Worthy's case, he can't get hit. Now, he had left his I shouldn't say small, but he had left his smaller little gym in Pittsburgh and gone over to Extreme Couture, Team Syndicate in Las Vegas. He'd worked with world-class guys, but as sharp as you can get yourself, your hands are good. His strength and conditioning, good cardio is good. He's been wrestling a lot. His jiu-jitsu solid. You could have all of that. There's nothing you can do in this world that can allow you to take a better punch. It just doesn't exist. Do you spar less? Do you move up a weight class? No, because now they hit harder. Did you spar less? No, now your timing's off. You're going to get hit. And in Herbert's case, he's got like a 77-inch reach. He was going to land at some point, and it was going to hurt because it always tends to. So I feel bad for Kama Worthy. I do, because he's a worthy guy. He's a worthy opponent. He's got legitimate skills. But if you can't take a punch, this sport's just not for you. And I think that's the realization that probably a lot of Kama Worthy supporters are going to have to come to. So with Jay Herbert, solid victory. But again, little grain of salt. You were kind of supposed to do that. So, this is the win he needed. He's 0-2 in the UFC. He comes over as the Cage Warriors champion. A lot of hype about him. This guy's long. He's efficient. He's got a good striking game. He was looking good early against Trinaldo before eventually losing. No shame in that. But this is a win that he needed. Get that confidence going. Extend out your run in the UFC. And so, solid victory for Jay Herbert. Kama Worthy, unfortunately, that's the last stop for him. He more than likely be released from the promotion. Jamie Pickett versus Leonardo Steropoli. I must not have watched this one close enough because I thought it was a close fight. I really did. I thought Steropoli was probably, he was pressing Pickett against the cage the entire first round. Almost nothing's happening, but he's the one pressing Pickett into the cage. And then at distance, this is another situation. Pickett's got like a 7.5 reach advantage. So Steropoli never looked comfortable from the outside, but he landed a couple chopping shots. At least I felt at the time that I would probably be inclined to score the first round for Steropoli. The second round, Steropoli starts off well. He's landing some good shots. He's pressuring Pickett. I feel like he's winning the first half of the round, and then Pickett starts to take over a little bit, starts to find his range. Steropoli gets tired as he always does. He gets sloppy as he always does, but he always keeps coming forward. But, Pickett did some decent work in that second. And then the third round, they show the live betting odds. It's 3-1 for Pickett. The third round seemed pretty close to me. And then they show it again, and it's 7-1 for Pickett. So did the lines maker know what the judges had on the scorecards? Did they already know Pickett's up 2 rounds? I don't know. Because I thought it was a close fight, but it wasn't, right? I think 2 of the judges had it 30-27. So I don't know what to tell you about this fight. I wasn't impressed by either guy. First and foremost, Leonardo Steropoli got to go back to 170. He is not a middleweight at all. He wasn't even in good shape at 170, but it's kind of comical how small he is at this weight class. And he has no X factor to his game. He's not a knockout puncher. He's not a wrestler. He's not a submission guy. He's just a body. He's a lukewarm body. Well, that would probably serve you better at 170, where all your weapons might be, a little sharper. But at 85, he's just a fish out of water. For Jamie Pickett, cool to see him get a UFC victory, because I don't think most people figured that he would. But this wasn't a good performance as well. He's so long, and yet doesn't find his range very often. He moves off his back foot a lot, doesn't strike good off his back foot, and he spent a lot of time with his back up against the cage. And like a decent wrestler would have gotten him down. It just so happens that Steropoli is not a wrestler at all. But he was up on one leg a few times. He was off balance a few times. Just, thankfully he was an actual middleweight taking on a welterweight who had very little wrestling game. Steropoli actually looks like he's got the frame of a lightweight, to be perfectly honest with you. But maybe he can't cut weight. Maybe he doesn't want to cut weight. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I don't know. I would say Steropoli is going to get another fight in the UFC, but like, again, with no actual defining quality to his overall game, he's not even really serviceable. He's on his way out. He's not going to be within the promotion for a while. And for Pickett, I would say the same thing. Like, he's not even mid-level. He'd be considered not even lower mid-level. He's just lower level all around. But they gave him the right type of opponent. He gets a victory that extends his run. So I'm happy for Jamie Pickett. But this was not a very good fight. Tabitha Ricci versus Maria Oliveira. Again, if you want to play the hindsight game, probably should have had more of Tabitha Ricci, and she looked awesome for the first 2 rounds. Started to slow down in the third, but, solid victory for her. Striking looked much improved. You knew that she had a solid ground game. The wrestling, now that she's back down to 115 pounds, you weren't taking down Mano Fiorot at 125, let's be real, but at 115, it appears like she's not a Mackenzie Dern. Like, she probably does have a little bit of wrestling that she can rely on. Once the fight did hit the ground, I mean, she was floating well, got to mount very well, but was unable to get the finish over Maria Oliveira. Now, the last time we'd seen Maria Oliveira, she was on the Contender Series against an absolute killer in Marina Rodriguez, but, did quit about 3 minutes into the first round. So is not taking anything against Ricci. Is that Ricci dominated her pretty good for the first 2 rounds, landed big shots, got her to the ground, got her at full mount, just not really able to put her away. And then in the third round, you see Maria Oliveira, I wouldn't say take over, just the third round was definitely her best round, I would say. So for Ricci, yeah, you need to shore that up, because the higher that you start to fight, the better level of opposition. It's not going to be as easy as just cruise for 2 rounds, take the third off. They're going to start to present a little bit of resistance and kind of push you to your limits. And as much as I'd like to say she's a good prospect, and I still think she is a good prospect, a tad bit green still. Like, this is a very winnable fight. She did win. Should have had more confidence in it. Didn't. Women's MMA, Tabitha Ricci, what do you really expect? But this was solid. This was solid enough effort. Can't take anything away from her, and gets the victory. We're backing her, puts us back in the win column. We're happy. Mason Jones versus David Onama. Mason Jones opens up as like 500 favorite. I get it. He ends up he ends up moving down to like a minus 450. Okay, people taking an underdog shot. And it's going to like minus 380. Now I'm thinking, shit, money's coming in on David Onama. Wonder why. First round, Onama looks legit, but Mason Jones is legit, man. He's getting those takedowns when he wants them. They're boxing, they're exchanging in tight, but he's gonna break this guy, and the takedowns game is gonna be, a big part of it. Totally wrong. You got 2 ultra prospects on your hands. I can't discredit David Onama in the slightest bit. As far as a first fight in the UFC, young guy, had really high level experience. This guy's sharp, man. He's got fast hands, moves very well, good footwork, athletic guy, big power. And a lesser opponent topples over half a dozen times, man. He was landing clean. Problem is, he's taking on Mason Jones, who's one of these classic Welshmen who can take one hell of a punch, has a great cardio, deep gas tank, and will continue to push the pressure. But Onama impressed the hell out of me. Mind you, I'm having a hell of a sweat here because we have Jones as a big favorite. And even though is the better fighter, like, this is close. He's not the better fighter by a large margin. Could be 1-1 going into the third. I mean, not where we want to be, but he secures the takedown in the third round. And then I think you see Onama tire ever so slightly. James Krause is trying to give him some advice. He's just not able to get up in the third round the way he was able to get up in the other rounds. And a lot of that is he's taking it short notice, bright lights, UFC, adrenaline dump. All of that plays into a factor. But I really liked what I saw out of him. And I'll be looking to bet him next time. I don't know who they'll give him, but he looked talented. And again, when you put him in a room, guys like James Krause, guys like, El Jefe, even the older guys like Zach Cummings, the old dogs that have been around the block, Grant Dawson, who's going to have a chip on his shoulder after that performance, I'm sure, right? You're going to make improvements. You're not an American top team where all the best guys in the world are, but you're in a gym where you're going to get a lot more privatized one-on-one focus. What's your game? What's best for your game? That's important. So, yeah, honestly, I was super impressed with both guys. Mason Jones is my boy coming in. He's my boy coming out. And happy he got the win, and deservedly so, deserved to get the victory. But David Onama, man, not that I didn't expect much out of him. The footage on him on the regional scene looked good. It's just that we see that all the time. And then when the going gets tough, they're just not quite the guy that you saw on the regional scene. No, this guy looked pretty solid. Interesting to see what they got next from Gregory Rodriguez versus Jung Young Park. Had Gregory Rodriguez, thought that taking him down would be the key to victory. Guy's actually got really good Brazilian jiu-jitsu. He's long. Physically, this guy's ripped up, man. Really good shape. And you can see that his striking is definitely progressing. He's been working on him. But at his best, jiu-jitsu guy, get the fight to the ground. Jung Young Park, known as the Iron Turtle for two reasons. One, he's an Iron Turtle, man. He's got a hell of a chin. No one had been able to knock him out. He can take one hell of a punch, but he's also the turtle because when he's on his back, at least what we have seen, he's just not very good. So the key here was going to be Rodriguez take him down. Fight starts. Rodriguez takes him down. This is easy money. This is good stuff. Oh, shit. Doesn't get the victory in the first round, right? Doesn't submit him. Doesn't really press the action too much on the ground, but Park just survives, kills the round. We got a 1-0 Rodriguez. Okay, we're feeling pretty good. And then it's like, we seriously overestimated his gas tank. Rodriguez is gassed. Now, his last fight in the UFC, he fights 3 full rounds, right? Against Dusko Todorovic. Dusko pushes a pretty good pace. He's always coming forward. I thought Rodriguez's gas tank looked good there. And he experienced 15 full minutes, so he's going to be a better man because of it. They say he's 29. He looks 35 to me, but, if he's only 29, he's going to be making improvements. He just fought 15 minutes. He was gassed 6.5 minutes into this fight. And this is bad news because Jung Young Park did not look fatigued in the slightest bit. And he takes over the fight. He's jabbing his face off. He's backing him up. Thank God Jung Young Park has no sustainable power in his hands because he clipped Rodriguez a dozen times clean on the chin. Rodriguez has got his head up in the air. He's backed up against the cage. He's trying to throw back. And I don't understand why he's throwing back. Like, you need to dig down and get a takedown. You're not going to win this fight standing. You're getting boxed up. You're completely gassed, and this guy's not going anywhere. At the very least, tie him up and try to slow the pace down a little bit and try to catch a second win. No, you're just trying to re-exchange fire with his head clean up in the air. It was just a matter of time before he got KO'd, and then wouldn't you know it? MMA is a crazy sport, man. You got to defend yourself at all times. Same thing as boxing. It's like it just takes one punch to change the course of things. And Jung Young Park, I don't know if he got over antsy. I don't know if he got reckless and careless. I got this guy exactly where I want him. I'm just going to unload. He put his own chin up in the air, and he got caught. And it was just like a total reversal of fortunes. If I was a Jung Young Park bettor, I would have been livid because he had the fight exactly where he wanted. He just needed to take a step back and use the jab some more. Jab him from the outside. He's tired, and he's not even countering all that well. He got over antsy. But huge comeback win for Gregory Rodriguez. I'm not sure how much I'm going to want to back this guy in the future just because I think his cardio problems are always going to be a problem. He's just ripped up way too much. His jiu-jitsu, not as good as I thought it was. And as far as the striking goes, oh, dude, he just got a big KO win. I don't want to call it fluky, like, his technique, but shit, man, should that have happened? Probably not. I think Jung Young Park just fought a bad plan. So, yeah, Rodriguez moves forward. Park, meanwhile, it was an entertaining fight. It was a hell of a back and forth tilt. I don't think his stock really changes all that much in it. They're definitely going to bring him back. Doesn't got nothing to worry about. And this is a fun fight all around. I mean, who won in this spot? Yeah, the fans. The fans won. It was a thrilling go. And with Rodriguez, the skills there, it's just I don't think sky's the limit for him. I think he's kind of tapered off to be a mid-level guy. UFC 267 action is live in Abu Dhabi this Saturday afternoon, and DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the UFC, has a knockout offer for the light heavyweight title bout. New customers can bet just $5 on either fighter and win $200 in free bets if they do. Will the champion retain, or will the veteran from Brazil snatch the belt from him? Bet just $5 on the UFC 267 main event and win $200 in free bets if your fighter wins. DraftKings is safe, reliable, and secure, and best of all, you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now, use promo code DOP, and throw down just $5 on UFC 267 main event and win $200 in free bets if you have the winning fighter. That's promo code DOP for this Saturday at DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the UFC. Must be 21 years or older, New Jersey, Indiana, and Pennsylvania only, new customers only, and a minimum of $5 deposit and a $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions do apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Nick Mariano versus Ike Villanueva. So Nick Mariano is a second-line ticket for us. We're high up on him, and it has nothing to do with him and his skill set. It has everything to do with Ike and Ike's lack of skill set. So it's 2021, right? And this is the UFC. Ike just has a very straight up boxing stance. He's heavy on his lead leg. And he likes to throw the same punches. Uppercut up the middle, overhand right. Uppercut up the middle, overhand right. You can back him up. He doesn't seem to have a ton of durability. He doesn't have a ton of cardio. He doesn't have anything other than a two-punch selection. He doesn't kick. He doesn't pressure as much as he probably should. What's there to like out of him, right? But I did think that Mariano probably would take him down, smash him up from top position. I didn't think he would just clip Ike. Ike falls over. He claims it's a punch behind the ear, but you're standing in front of a guy, so how did he punch you in the back of the head? Then he hits the ground. Now, if you want to rewatch it, because the commentators were all over, but look at all of these punches to the back of the head. That's bullshit, man. Bullshit. So he goes down. The first one's clean. The second one's on the ear. The third one misses. The fourth one hits him in the back of the head, but he's got his glove up. So it hits the glove. And it's not like it's a clean punch in the back of the head. And then the fifth one's clean, and then the sixth one misses. But the ref was trying to push him off, and he kept punching. And they're in the back of the head. And they keep talking like they want the athletic commission to look at it. Like, even when they come back from commercial, I got a commercial, some people didn't. When they come back from commercial, they're like, oh, they're looking at the monitor. Why? Why are they looking at the monitor? He beat him fair and square. There's no punches at the back of the head. One of them maybe grazed him. It's a prize fight. He's down already. He's out of it. I don't know. Were they looking for a DQ? Were they looking for a no contest? Like, what was the issue? But please do go back and watch it, because you might just be thinking, hey, man, I watched it. That was dirty. Watch the slow motion. Not dirty. Referee's there. Referee sees what's going on. Ike's done regardless. Give him a half hour to recover if you want. Same outcome's going to happen 5 seconds later. He's done. And he knew it. He cusses out his corners like everything happens for a reason. As in, you're about to get released from your promotional contract, and you can either go back to fighting on the regional scene for $2,000, $3,000, or you can call it a day. I think he's 37 years old. His run in the UFC did not work out, and I don't know. It's a tough go. Ike's gone from the promotion. Mariano is not very good, and now he's on a 2-fight winning streak. So Dems to breaks, unfortunately. Francisco Trinaldo versus Dwight Grant. This is another fight I think I had a troubled time scoring. First round, Dwight Grant owns him for the first 3 minutes. He's way faster, stays to the outside. He's countering well. Doesn't rock him, but definitely gets his attention with a couple right hands. And then the later 2 minutes of the first round, Trinaldo starts to find his distance a little bit, cuts him off, starts to land some decent shots. I scored the first round for Dwight Grant, but by how much? And even are you in confidence saying that? I don't know. It was a pretty close toss-up round. Second round, it seems like Trinaldo started to take over, and then Dwight Grant completely rocks him. So how do you score that round? It was a good round for Trinaldo, but the most damage was clearly landed by Dwight Grant. And then the third round's a Trinaldo round, but it's not like Grant was completely out of his element. But I looked at the live betting line, and it was all Trinaldo. So again, I'm not sure how pervy the line maker is, whoever's setting the line. I'm not sure how pervy they are to the scorecards, but it seems like they don't give you, in a 50-50 fight, why is one guy a 3-1 favorite going into the third round? Or halfway through the third round? I don't know. Sorry, something's in my eye. I keep poking at it. Yeah, and for Grant, this was the strategy we knew he was going to do. He runs away a lot. He's backpedaling a lot. And if he lands that big power and puts you down, great. But it has been materializing lately. I would say at 36 years old, the style that he's been fighting, the losses that he's now starting to rack up. What does the UFC really want with this guy? He's not all that entertaining. And he's not engaging guys for the most part. He's a little bit older, and he's losing fights. For Francisco Trinaldo, how do you cut this guy? You never cut this guy. He's 43 years old, and he always delivers. Win, loss, doesn't matter. Guy comes to fight. He's always in great shape. This is him at 170 now. The weight cuts are a little bit easier for him. And listen, he's a fighter. This is all he knows. He's done this his entire life. He's got almost 40 professional fights. He's 43 years old. He's never been knocked out. Been knocked down 3 or 4 times. Never been finished in a fight. Dude is as tough gets. He wants to continue. Let him continue. He's getting victories. How do you hold him back? So Master Nduba, shout out to Paul Shaughnessy. Master Nduba is his guy. He always spams bets him. Master Nduba always gives him a full effort and has cashed a lot of good tickets for him. And this is one of them. So was I too ignorant to take the advice again? Perhaps. It was a split decision. And listen, I thought this was a close fight. I thought it could have gone the other way to Dwight Grant. It's just, I'm not a guy that's going to cry about decisions that don't go my way. Especially because I believe in my head that I'm doing really good on the night still. So it doesn't really matter to me. If to give a quick recap to this point, 0-1 with Martinez, 1-1 with Miranda Marcos, 2-1 with Jeff Molina, 3-1 with Jay Herbert, lost Steropoli, but it was low on my confidence list. Anyways, didn't matter. We're 3-2. Tyler Ricci 4-2. Mason Jones 5-2. Gregory Rodriguez 6-2. Nick Mariano 7-2. We're kicking ass. So what? So what if I lose this Francisco Trinaldo fight 7-3? I'm really invested in three of the next 4 fights, and I'm going to make a ton of money. And we'll make up for Fedor Emelianenko pulling magic out of his hat one more time. I just need Sung Woo Choi to walk through Bruce Leeroy. That's step one. He's a top ticket guy. I like what Sung Woo Choi brings to the table. He showed in his fight just 2 fights ago. Again, he's tough to take down because he's 6 feet tall. He's a big, strong guy. He did get taken down in his first 2 UFC fights, Movsar Evloev, Gavin Tucker. But since then, takedown defense has vastly improved. His striking's good. We like him at range. He's got heavy hands. There's a lot that you can like out of that. And with Bruce Leeroy, he has no stopping power in his hands. Like, his striking is very crafty, very sneaky, hard to get a read on. He's got excellent kicks, question mark kicks, that little side kick to the body, good technique, but just no stopping power. So the flash knockout, not on the table. We know he's got better jiu-jitsu. We know he's a better grappler. Fully admitted that on the previous show. Problem is he doesn't have the wrestling to get the fight to the ground. So he's going to be stuck standing at range. And unfortunately, Sung Woo Choi is going to piece him up. First round, things are going pretty good. Bruce Leeroy's dancing to the outside, but Choi's finding his range, and then boom, right hand, drops Bruce Leeroy. He dives right on top of him. I didn't think that was the right move simply because I knew the one advantage that we would be giving up was the grappling. So even though he's rocked, I don't like the idea of just rushing on the ground because what if he hits a sweep? What if he throws up an armbar? What if he throws a triangle? He's still a crafty guy. He's got a good chin on him. Why not just bang, drop him, step away, stand back up? He's still discombobulated, right? Now he's got to get back on his feet. What's he going to take you down? He's hurt, right? Just go. And if you were to drop him again, well, the referee might just step in and have mercy. But no, he falls him to the ground. Bruce Leeroy recovers. Bruce Leeroy gets up to a knee. And for the life of me, I can't figure this out. These guys train 2-3 times a day in a cage. They watch fights. They know fights. And in fact, a lot of guys, they now grew up watching MMA. It's not, the excuse is not there anymore for I didn't know. You can't knee a guy in the face when he's on the ground. You can't, right? And you didn't think, oh, I thought he was up. And I used to hear all the time, and I used to believe it. I don't believe it anymore. Natural instinct, man. Natural instinct. No, man. You train in a gym. Do you do that to any of your training partners? Do you smash them in the face with a knee? No. You don't do that in training. I guarantee you that. Why is it that these guys, not all of them, the dumbasses, Sung Woo Choi is officially now a fucking dumbass. Why do you do it? I don't get it. So he knees him in the face. Things were going pretty well. Bruce Leeroy doesn't even know what's up. He's looking at Herzog like, did you stop the fight? Herzog, no, don't worry. He is an illegal knee. They give him a few minutes. They deduct a point. I get it. It screws me because Choi he was on his way to getting a 10-8 round. You got him dropped. You got him hurt. Just back away, let him stand back up, go back. No, you create some stupid scramble. You lost yourself a point. And I didn't even think that round was a 10-8. So now it's a 10-9 with a point deduction. It's a 9-9. So now we need to win the next 2 rounds to get a decision. If you lose one of the next 2 rounds, we're getting a draw. So this is now, it's created a bit of a problem, but all the same, he beat Bruce Leeroy in the first round. He dropped him in the first round. So it's not the worst first round in the world, just a bonehead move. By the time he takes the 3 minutes to clear his head and the fight starts over again, now he's not hurt. You've effectively let him off the hook. So now the second round starts and Choi does good in the second round. First 2 minutes, he's doing a pretty good job. He's staying at range. He's landing good shots. He's following around. Bruce Leeroy presses him up against the cage the first time looking for a takedown. Choi disengages. He does a good job. He keeps his back flat to the cage the entire time, takes his underhook, circles out, back in his domain, which is the striking game, and he's winging again. Second time Bruce Leeroy presses him up against the cage, he turns and gives up his back. What are you doing? Bruce Leeroy immediately just jumps on his back. He didn't need a takedown. Couldn't get one. Choi turns and gives up his own fucking back. Bruce Leeroy jumps in. Again, we know he's got the grappling. We know he's got the submissions. But even then, man, there's 2.5 minutes on the clock. He's body locked you from a stand-up position. It's tough to get a choke from here. You just need to play your cool. The problem with playing your cool is you're now going to lose the round. And because you lost a point in the first round, if you lose this round to getting backpacked, best you can do if you don't get a knockout is a draw from the fight. So he gets a little bit desperate and then starts trying to shake him and then drops to a knee and just lets Bruce Leeroy put the choke in. So he taps. What can you do, man? Listen, we get good bounces sometimes. We get bad bounces sometimes. I'm going to say I don't feel like this was a bad read. A bad read would be Mariano Steropoli. You know, the guy absolutely sucks. What was I having any type of investment in him? A bad read is Zayed Lazaivili. Wow, Martinez has got way more experience than you see. Like those are bad reads. This wasn't a bad read. The guy could have won the fight. His non-existent ring IQ cost him the fight. He cost himself the fight. I can't get mad at myself. I can't get mad at him. This is the game, you know? You don't think he's bummed out about it too? I get it. So what? I lost money. It happens. You know, you win some, you lose some. You don't get bitter about it. You just move on. But man, what could have been? Because Choi was the better fighter, I thought. He was well on his way. A couple bonehead decisions cost him, changed everything. Jess Rose Clark versus Jocelyn Edwards. This was a bad read. This is a bad read. Everybody and their mom reached out to me to tell me Jess Rose Clark was spending the entire camp wrestling. You know, she's going down to Team Alpha Male, where she's just attending the wrestling classes. She goes down to Gilroy Wrestling Academy in Gilroy, California with Daniel Cormier, and she's just doing the wrestling there too. Meanwhile, Jocelyn Edwards was at King's MMA, and she was working her wrestling. Thing is like some people, they can work on it all they want. It just don't matter. In Jocelyn Edwards' case, she might be one of those people. Her takedown defense is a massive liability. Anybody with a modicum of wrestling figures to take her down. And again, this is another, I need to listen to my co-host Paul Shaughnessy because he's way sharper than a lot of people give him credit for. He's all over this. He's all over this narrative. It was my own fault, but it's like she's at King's MMA. Yeah, she's at King's MMA, right? One of the top gyms in the world. Yeah, one of the top gyms in the world. You'll see Marvin Vittori in the main event. Okay, fair. So who's she working with exactly? Man, plethora of good UFC talent. You know, she gets working with Mackenzie Dern all the time. It's like, yeah, Mackenzie Dern can't wrestle to save her life. It's like, oh, yeah, okay. Well, I mean, she works with Vanessa Demopoulos a lot. It's like, yeah, okay, Vanessa Demopoulos can't wrestle for her life. It's like, oh, okay, that's a good point. Or about Pierre Rodriguez. It's like, she's like, when you go to Alpha Male, at least they wrestle. You know, you go to Gilroy Wrestling Academy, they wrestle. Jocelyn, even if she was winning these wrestling matches, she's playing around with jiu-jitsu girls who pull guard and flop around. And honestly, this is a bad read. Jess Rose Clark just does what she does. She's very strong, physical, even at 135. I mean, you can see that she spends a lot of time strength and conditioning. Check her on social media. She does a lot of powerlifting and whatnot. She's a strong girl. She's been working on her wrestling. The wrestling was just so unbelievably easy here, and it was just a rinse and repeat game plan. So Edwards presented absolutely no resistance. I would say she is in a tremendous amount of trouble, but she's only 26. She is at an elite level gym, but it's not going to be good for her moving forward. And she's not one of these fighters too, where it's like, well, she just stuffs a few takedowns. Her striking, it's like, no, her striking is really not that good either, right? But she is a striker. At least she could potentially win a fight in a striking battle. But with absolutely no takedown defense and apparently no ability to improve during camp to camp, not going to go good long run. So her stock, in my opinion, dropped drastically. Rose Clark, meanwhile, she's had 3 fights in the last 3 years, so she needed this. She looked good by her standard, took very little damage, and moves on. So solid victory for Jess Rose Clark. And she actually left Las Vegas to go to California, saying that it would give her a bunch of improvements and allow her to work on herself and more personalized attention, stuff that we've already talked about. It appears to be the case. She does look like she's making improvements at 33. She's not going to challenge for a title or anything like that, but she'll expose the frauds. And unfortunately, I now have to consider Jocelyn Edwards to be a fraud. Grant Dawson versus Rick Glenn. So unfortunately for me, Sungwoo Choi versus Bruce Leeroy kind of killed my top ticket. Otherwise, this night's not looking bad, but that's the problem with parlays. You're not betting these things individually and, geez, I got 8 right, 4 wrong. Well, that's not the end of the world, right? But yeah, it is the end of the world when you got somebody on a top ticket. But Grant Dawson was the other top ticket play. So when I put the people at the top, it's like, who do I have the most confidence in? I had a lot of confidence in Sungwoo Choi. And again, I think he could have won that fight, but he made a couple bonehead decisions and made me look stupid. Grant Dawson, kind of the same thing. The first round, he gets Ricky Glenn down. It's a good first round for Grant Dawson. The second round, he gets him down. But he burns a lot of energy. I mean, the takedown attempts, it's not like he just gets the first takedown. He chain wrestles and he pushes a pace and he grinds. And, you know, I always talk about a lot of narrative, and the narrative will get you in trouble sometimes. But when you look at Grant Dawson, his last fight, I mean, he knocks the guy out with his second left on the clock. He pushes a pace the entire time. All of his fights in the UFC have been fast paced. All of his fights in the UFC have been a grind. And yet he's winning these fights. He's coming in on the positive end of it. This guy's got good cardio. He's still only 24 years old. He's making improvements. He's now accruing talent and experience in the UFC. This is all good. You just watch El Jefe put on a career best performance where the guy just floated and had cardio for days. This is a great spot for Grant Dawson. He wins the first round, he grinds on him. The second round, he grinds on him. He wins the second round. He's up 2 rounds. He's got cardio. He's been in these type of fights before. And you know the path to Rick Glenn. He's been giving you up takedowns. That third round, man, it was complete polar opposite. I mean, he gassed. He gassed huge. Shot the takedown, but it was a sloppy takedown from too far out. So actually, Glenn initially takes him down, and then Grant scrambles, get back up to his feet, but just shoots the same basic double leg takedown from too far out. What you'll see is that Ricky Glenn does an excellent job of just like pressing his head down. He puts his chest right into the back of the head and just slams it down, gets up to the cage, has his feet essentially against the cage. There's nowhere for Dawson to go, and he's tired. He can't hit a roll out. He can't hit a step out. He just needs to accept the position. But it's 2 rounds to nothing, so it doesn't really matter. All Grant Dawson needs to do is survive. But he keeps trying to go to a deep half guard sweep. Deep half guard sweep don't work anymore. They used to work for the Nogueira brothers back in Pride, but now you're just putting yourself up in a bad position to eat shots, specifically short elbows. And he eats a pile of short elbows. Now this is becoming a dominating round. He spent 4 minutes on the bottom. He's eaten a ton of elbows. He's clearly gassed out. And the deep half guard, all it's doing is just wasting energy and allowing him to just get hit with more elbows. And then 20 seconds left, he again puts himself in a bad position by trying to roll through on it. He leaves his neck exposed. Rick Glenn grabs a hold of it, tries to roll for the Darce. He's got his thumb up, but at first it's just like, oh yeah, he's good. Then it looks like the arm's going stiff, man. He is totally going out. Let's go. I don't think he's out. I think Rick Glenn was actually an asshole when he's like, you're out, buddy. You're out. You're out. It's like, fuck you, man. We just had a 15-minute war, right? I beat your ass for the first 10 minutes. You had a hell of a comeback. I'm gassed. And he tells him, he's like, no, dog, I'm tired. I'm tired. You're out, man. You're out. Rick Glenn seems like a piece of shit, but I'm probably also just bitter because I thought I was going to get a win and I got a draw. But I actually agree with it. It was a 10-8 round Rick Glenn. He mauled him, man. He had 4 minutes on top. And it wasn't when Dawson had 4 minutes on top in the other rounds, he wasn't smashing him. He was just holding position. Rick Glenn's crafty off his back and gave him problems. In the third round, it was all Glenn. He smashed him up with elbows. He dominated him positionally. He dominated him in terms of the ground and pound. And then it was a hell of a way to cap it off with the close choke. So normally I would say I don't care because it's a push, it's a draw, you get your money back. But I did screw up and actually chased Grant Dawson by decision. And because I specifically, it was a money line, you specifically say this guy's going to win a decision, a draw is actually a loss. So a little bit of salt on the wound as well, because I had lost my top ticket in losing Sumo Choi. I chased a little bit. I went the Rose Clark Edwards fight to go the distance, which is minus 300, wasn't a good price. Grant Dawson by decision, Marvin Vettori by decision. Of course, the little bounces in the sport get you. And I'm not going to chalk it up to a bad read. It wasn't like, oh, dude, Grant Dawson's a fraud and this and that. He fought a very good first 2 rounds. Oh, man, you should have known his cardio was no good. Why? It previously had been pretty good. It just wasn't his night. And he made a couple bad decisions. At 24, he'll be able to go correct that. James Krause, and it's a draw. It wasn't like he lost. I lost. He didn't lose. They'll go to the drawing board. They'll correct a few things. He's going to get more mature. He's going to learn how to pace himself a little bit better. And I still think very highly of Grant Dawson. Stock didn't go down in my book. But Ricky Glenn, he had taken 3.5 years off from the sport. He came back with a 1 punch over Joaquim Silva in 37 seconds. I don't take nothing from that. Now you see, yeah, this guy's a problem. If the fight stays standing, he actually does have pretty good striking. You haven't been able to really show it in this fight, but he's a good striker. We know that about him. As far as his wrestling, his wrestling has always been his kryptonite, but 1, held up pretty good in the third. 2, the other 2 rounds, it was chain wrestling that got him. He was tough in the initial attempt, and his wrestling coach was super high on the fact that, like, yeah, this guy's grinding in the gym. He's a decent wrestler. He'll be okay. And we know that his submissions are legitimate. So, and now for sure, his cardio is pretty goddamn good. I mean, he was more of a decision guy anyway, so cardio was never really questioned. But after 3.5 years away from the sport, he just fought a 24-year-old kid, and that kid's completely exhausted, and Ricky Glenn looks crisp. The only one thing I can fault him for is it seemed like he was a dickhead after the fight, where the guy's coming over to shake your hand and be like, hey, man, good fight. They haven't even read a decision yet, and he's just like, you're out. You were out. I seen your head hit the ground. It's just like, none of that, have a little bit of sportsmanship. But what do I care? I'm probably just being sour grapes. Marvin Vittori, Paulo Costa headliner. At this point, I've been crushed, so who cares? But at least it's good to cap it off on a winning note. It didn't matter if the fight was at 85, 95, 205 pounds. Paulo Costa just, I don't know, something's going on with him. He goes back to, he has a crazy war with Yoel Romero. Crazy battle, back and forth, fight of the night. A lot of people consider it to be, one of the fight of the years. Great 15 minutes displayed. And the very next fight against Israel Adesanya, he just looked flat. He took no steps forward. He stood there. He threw no punches. It was an abysmal effort. But then as soon as the fight's done, he comes out and says, drank a bottle of wine. I'm not really sure what that has to do with it. I've seen fighters get straight banged up the night before a fight and go out and perform. A lot of these guys, I got owned on Agapova the other day, but it's like, you don't think this girl's in the bar? You don't think she's in the club? Goes out there and performs. So blaming it on a bottle of wine is a little weird. And also, if you're some prize fighter fighting for a world title, like, why drink a bottle of wine the night before a fight? You're not just some person on a card. You're not just some person who just loves to fight. This is a title opportunity. But it was the fact that he's making up excuses. And it's like a mental hurdle, right? It wasn't just, dude, I lost to a better guy tonight. It's, wow, I could have beat him had I not drank that bottle of wine. No, don't drink the bottle of wine. You think the outcome changes? Doesn't. Israel Adesanya a better man? Would have beaten you regardless. Did not matter. But the mental crutch is, well, I need something to blame it on. So that's all fight week. That's what this was, right? At first, it's like, I'm 211 pounds. I'm not going to make $185. Can we move it to 195? And then it's, yeah, okay, we'll move to 195. Wow, I actually can't make 195. So why don't we do 205? But then they interview him and they're just like, you couldn't make a weight. And he's like, what are you talking about? I never signed a bout agreement for 185. I signed one bout agreement saying 205 pounds. I made 205 pounds. I didn't miss weight. I don't know why I got to give up 20%. Like, he's confused. Why do you got to give up 20%? I didn't miss weight. You fight at 185 pounds. You just got on scale at 205 pounds. How do you know? No. So he starts blaming it on his manager, which is Wally Ishmael, a GOAT, a legend, an OG of Brazilian MMA, and a hell of a manager, by the way. At first, he's blaming him. Then he's blaming his coaching staff. Then he's blaming his management company. He's just blaming everybody but himself. Oh, I didn't see the bout agreement. Oh, I didn't know I was supposed to make 185. So you're telling me you got on a plane. You flew all the way over here. You made an interview where you're like, I don't think I'm going to make 185. I'm 211 right now. And all of that, and you're telling me you never knew you're supposed to make 185. He's a liar. Dude's a liar, and he's looking to pass blame on somebody else because, again, he just won't take the responsibility to himself. So now come fight time. Yeah, he looked way bigger than Marvin Vettori in the cage for sure. But again, dude, he throws some big power techniques. That right kick of his, nasty. He can throw it up to the head, to the leg, to the body. Don't matter. It doesn't really leg kick a whole lot. But that body kick, that head kick, nasty. Very quick. The hands, big. He's moving forward. You're moving backward, especially if you hit the cage. There's not much space to move. He'll unload on you. But he doesn't move back well off his back foot. And he's tired. He's gassed. He didn't have to cut weight for this fight. He presumably had a full camp, and yet 3.5 minutes into the first round, he is completely exhausted, right? Tired. So first round, Marvin Vettori lands a whole better punches for sure. Second round, Paulo Costa just goes for it in the first 2 minutes. He tries to knock out Vettori. He lands a couple decent shots, a couple grazing head kicks, nice right hand. But if you watch Vettori, he's at no point in any type of trouble. His vision for Costa's punches was unreal. He slipped a lot of punches, and a lot of them by a few inches, but it was like just off to the left, just off to the right, just backing up. He saw everything clearly. Unfortunately, when you got a wrecking ball of a man in front of you who's likely on PEDs, is up a weight class, right, has cheated you all camp long, all fight week long, this guy has just done everything in his power to put the deck in his own favor. You did a good job, man. So that's the first 2 minutes of the round. Then you've got Marvin Vettori starts to take over. He gets the takedown. He starts landing his own shots, and then he eats a nasty eye poke. So this goes back to why Paulo Costa is a piece of shit, right? You blast this guy in the eye. Now Herzog tells him, dude, I warned you a bunch of times. Stop putting your fingers extended. You keep trying to grab him with the fingers. He said, I warned you. I got to take a point. And Paulo Costa is like, nope. No, he shakes his head and says to him, no, as if to be like, no, you're not taking a point. Normally the ref takes the fighter, walks him to the center, 1 point. Well, if you look, Herzog grabs his glove and he pulls away. No. What a fucking bitch this guy is, man. That's bitch made. This guy won't accept fault for anything. But it was still a good fight. Now, people say, well, it was Paulo Costa won the second round, but the point deduction to 9-9. I disagree with that. I think Marvin Vettori won the second round. Paulo Costa had a good 2 minutes, most of which was actually blocked. The latter half of the 3 minutes is Marvin Vettori taking him down, Marvin Vettori backing him up, short shots, nice little elbows landed in the clinch up against the cage, and he's got the pace. He actually also outstrikes him. First round, he outstruck him 39-35. Second round, he outstrikes him 40-36, with the majority of that being in the latter 3 minutes. Is that a Paulo Costa round? So I disagree. I got it Marvin Vettori up to. Third round's Marvin Vettori. Fourth round's Marvin Vettori. Fifth round, Paulo Costa wins the round for sure. As much as I think that I say he's bitch made and that was total puss. The real word is, because he's not a bitch, he's not a pussy, not like that. The real word is he's a scumbag. But he's a fighter. I'll give him that. He didn't quit for the 25 minutes. He fought on. The fifth round was his best round, on the only round I scored for him. And, you see Dana come out afterwards and, like, you're going to punish him. And he's like, nah, he came to fight. Like, I'll give him that. He did come to fight. But then in the post-fight press conference, he's like, it was a bicep injury. That's why I couldn't make weight. Like, what do you mean couldn't make weight? 3 days ago, you were saying you did make weight. Like, he just changes his story. And it's just another excuse. Bicep injury. The wine. My management company never told me. No, you can't take a point. Like, get with it, dude. I hope he loses every fight he's in from now on. I hope they're entertaining because I like watching entertaining fights, but I hope he stays at 205 and they beat the shit out of him. He is not a good person. He's fraudulent. And he's one of these guys that when the going was good and he was knocking out guys and he was top of the world, he's confident, he's talking shit, he's showing up in the Versace shirt, I can't accuse him of being on PEDs because, to my knowledge, he's passed all of his tests. But the guy's greasy, man. He's a dirtbag, greasy fighter, and I'm really glad that Marvin Vettori beat his ass. So, as far as I'm concerned, Paulo Costa's stock is low. It's low. Dana says he fought well. That's fine. 205 is an abysmally bad division, so conceivably there are guys at 205 that he could beat. And I hope they throw him in against the Wolves, top 5 guys, and I hope they put an absolute beating on him. He's not coming back down to 185. His muscles are just way too big at this point, and I do not like Paulo Costa. I'm sure I've made that pretty evident by this point. Marvin Vettori, meanwhile, stock definitely goes up. That was a good performance, solid performance. I think I really like Marvin Vettori. I think he's the second best fighter in the division. I think, he's not beating Israel Adesanya, but at least he gave him a go. They fought him twice. Conceivably, he's won 3 of those 8 rounds that he's fought against him. And who else can really claim that, right? So Marvin's the number 2 guy. He's, unfortunately, what do you do with him? But if I was to knock one thing against Marvin Vettori, he's had 10 fights in the UFC. 8 of them have gone the distance. He's not knocked out anybody in 6 years now. His last 4 fights have all gone the 25-minute time limit. He's got no stopping power. He had a little bit of a submission game. You saw earlier on in the UFC. He scores a guillotine in his UFC debut, and he choked out Carl Robinson with a first-round rear naked choke. But, outside of that, he kind of just goes through the motions. He backs you up. He lands great punches. None of them have a ton of zip on them. He landed some great shots on Paulo Costa. I think Paulo Costa's a quitter. I think of a bigger punch. Maybe not. You'll hit him with some shots. Okay, he's not a quitter. He's a scumbag. He's a dirtbag. He's all those things. But I'll give him one thing. Guy is a warrior. He's got the heart of a fighter. It's not the heart of a champion. And Vittori did everything he could. It's just he's not knocking guys out. He's not going to submit any elite level top 10 opponents. So what you're going to get is a ton of decision fights out of Marvin. And he's so cast iron. He's not getting knocked out. He's not getting submitted. If they book him for 25-minute fights, they're going to be 25-minute fights. If they drop him back down to co-main event status or something on a pay-per-view main card, it's a 3-round fight. Good. But his advantage is probably that he can fight 25 minutes. He's probably better suited for 25-minute fights. But fans like to see a finish every now and again. It's nothing about dominating guys. But even John Jones, eventually they just called him boring. George St. Pierre, eventually they just called him boring. Marvin, they're going to call him boring at some point. You can't just, even though this is a great fight, he's in great fights. People want to see a little more pizzazz. But I'm a Marvin Vettori fan through and through. So I know people call him a meathead and they don't like his persona outside of the cage. But he delivers the goods, and happy to see him get the victory here. So All in all, not a great night. Martinez 0-1. Marcos put us 1-1. Molina 2-1. Herbert 3-1. Pickett 3-2. Ricci 4-2. Jones 5-2. Rodriguez 6-2. Mariano 7-2. Trinaldo lost, puts us at 7-3, and then Bruce Leeroy 7-4. Jocelyn Edwards 7-5. The Grant Dawson draw, now it's a 7-5-1, and a Marvin Vettori win. You end the night 8-5-1. But considering we started off 7-2, still had our 2 top tickets in play, 3 of our top 4 tickets in play, like bad beat. But again, that's always expected. Things happen. If you're the kind of person who's discouraged from that, this game's not for you. If the kind of person that's just going to wipe the dust off and jump back on the pony next time around, I mean, that's all really we can do. But anyways, thanks for listening to the recap. Sorry I couldn't get the job done this time around. We got a Tuesday night contender series and then a UFC again next week. So hopefully double down, do the tape, do the study. And yeah, again, we can get the right call. It's just they gotta go in there and not illegally knee a guy when he's on the ground, or not, I don't know, coulda, shoulda, woulda, right? I'm not going to be the bitter guy that complains about stuff because, yeah, we got another slate next week. So until then, good luck. If you did manage to cash and get out of this bloodbath alive, good job. Congratulations. I need to be a little tighter on this card, and unfortunately, I did myself a no service. So we've built enough of a bankroll that we can afford a couple of these losses here and there, but don't want to make a routine out of that. So let's get back to the win column next time around. Until then, I'll see you later. Oh.